This next fly is going to be a Compara Dun, and I tie it a little differently than is most commonly done, so I'll walk you through a few different steps as we go. The hook is a Tiemco 100. The tails are going to be some tan-colored microfibbets. We're going to use calabatus-colored superfine dubbing for the body, although you can change the color of the body to match any mayfly that you'll encounter. And the wing is going to be some natural-colored deer hawk. In this size and color combination, it's going to be a calabatus, which is a lake mayfly, although you can mix and match this to match any mayfly that you'll encounter. We're going to start off with some GSP 50 thread in brown, and I'm going to attach the thread at about the 80% point on the hook and wrap back to the bend. And we're going to tie a split tail on this fly, and I'm going to show you yet another way to make a split tail, just for the sake of being thorough. I'm going to pick out 4 microfibbets. And I'm going to even the tips of those as close as I can. I'm going to measure these just a skosh longer than the hook shank is. And I'll tie these in at the bend right on top of the hook. I'm going to lift those up and press my thumbnail up underneath them. And I'll divide these 2 to a side, just with my fingers here. And I'm just going to let those sit there for the time being. I'm going to wrap my thread forward over those butt ends to just short of our starting point, maybe about 75% on the hook, and I'll trim the butt ends off. Now typically you would tie the wing in next, but I'm going to wrap the dubbing for the abdomen first, and then we'll tie the wing in next. So we're going to apply just a light thin strand of this calabatus colored superfine dubbing to the thread, and I want to keep this very, very thin. I'm going to use my bare thread to work back to the bend, and I'm going to use the first couple turns of dubbing once I get back here to help divide the tails. So my thread is hanging under the hook right now. I'm going to come up under the near side 2 tails, pulling toward the front, and I'll drop the thread down around the hook. Now I'm going to come from my near side, I'm going to come down over the far side tails to make an X-wrap around all 4 tails. I've got 2 on each side, and that's just going to help to split that tail and spread it out a little bit. Now I'm going to wrap a very thin abdomen, working forward up to about the 80% point on the hook. Now I'm going to build a little bit of a taper by working the dubbing back and forth here, and I want to finish with a nice sharp corner on the front edge, a nice shoulder on the front edge of the dubbing. I'm going to take a small clump of this natural deer hair. This happens to be deer hawk, but in this size you could use a lot of different hairs. You just want hair with short fine tips that will stack up and make a nice clean wing. I'm going to take this clump of hair and I'm going to make sure I clean all the underfur and short hairs out of this bunch. Anything that's extra long I'll try to weed out as well. And I'll put this hair in my stacker and just give it a few taps to line that hair up. Now I've got a nice clean bundle of hair here on top of coming out of the stacker. I'm going to grab that hair. I'm going to thin this down just a bit. I've got a little more than I need. I find I always have a much better idea of how much hair I've got there after I've stacked it because it's all come down to the same length. So I've got my clump of hair now. I'm going to measure this against the hook shank. I'm going to lay it in on the hook with the pre-measured point right at the front edge of the abdomen. I'm going to take 2 turns of thread around the hair, and I'll draw the thread toward me to flare this. Now before I let go of these butt ends, I want to transfer them to my other hand. So I'm going to slide this wing forward a little bit and make a nice clean cut along the back edge of that wing butt. By doing the wing this way, conventionally you'd have tied the wing down first and tried to hide all those butt ends under your dubbed body. You can see, even as close as I cut that, they're still bigger than the body. So conventionally you'd have a much bigger lump on the fly. This way is going to eliminate that lump and add some of those large diameter butt ends to the fly that'll contribute to flotation. So we've just kind of killed two birds with one stone. We've kept the fly skinny and it made it a little more buoyant than we would have with the conventional tying technique. Now I'm going to lift this wing up and build a thread dam in front of it. The easiest way to get this wing up in one shot is close your fingers under the hook and just draw your fingers up from the bottom. See, as I draw back, I've caught almost all the hairs. Now I've got them all. What I'm going to do now is build a thread dam tight against the front edge of the wing to stand it upright. We should end up with about a 180-degree fan across the front of the fly. Now I'm going to add just a bit of dubbing to dub the thorax of this fly to sort of finish him off. It's not going to take much here because we built that thread dam. We've created a lot of bulk already. So just a thin layer of dubbing. And I'm going to start from just behind our index point and work up to the base of the wing, letting that dubbing push the wing up together, and then work forward again, ending with bare thread just behind the hook eye. Now I'll whip finish my thread, trim it off, and then I'm going to preen the wing into shape a little bit. I'm just going to stand them a little more upright. If I've got any ragged butt ends that are sticking out, I could come in and trim those out now. We should overall end up with about a, like I say, 180-degree or so fan across the front of the fly that's about a shank length long. So we've got a nice wide split tail and a big fan wing that'll create a lot of surface area to help this fly float. Very cheap, easy, quick to tie fly. You can use it to match any mayfly that you'll come across. This is one of the most popular patterns around, and there's a good reason for it.